Under a vast and stormy sky, the story of Cuba's struggle for liberty unfolds, drawing us into a timeless epoch marked by both tragedy and triumph. In this narrative, I lead you through a landscape steeped in history, where the echoes of passionate voices and fervent ideals still resonate. At the heart of this tale is Gabriel de la Concepcion Valdez, known by his poetic sobriquet Placido, a gifted soul whose verses encapsulated hope and resistance amid an oppressive era. His life, marked by early hardships and luminous brilliance, becomes a symbol of a nation's yearning for freedom. As I guide you along cobbled streets in Havana and through the lively corners of Matanzas, you will witness a world where art and politics intertwined, forming a vibrant canvas of struggle and defiance. The very elements of nature, the roaring winds, the ominous clouds, and the intermittent flashes of lightning, mirror the turbulent times, evoking the inner turmoil of a people caught between despair and the unyielding desire for change. Every scene, every whispered secret, and every carefully crafted stanza pays tribute to the indomitable spirit that refused to be silenced by tyranny. Join me as I recount the journey of Placido, a young poet whose tender beginnings blossomed into a fervent mission for justice, and whose final moments illuminated the path to liberation. In this exploration, we embrace not only his poetic legacy, but also the broader narrative of a people who dared to dream of freedom against insurmountable odds. This is the chronicle of sacrifice, passion, and resilience, a timeless testimony that even in the darkest hours, the light of liberty can and will prevail. Join me as this narration unfolds the visions of a nation and the heartbeat of a poet whose legacy endures, a beacon of hope in times of despair. Cuba in the early 19th century was a land of vibrant beauty intertwined with painful oppression. I invite you to step into a world where Spanish colonial rule cast a heavy shadow over an island that had long been celebrated for its natural splendor and rich cultural tapestry. Along the sun-dappled streets of Havana and the colorful plazas of Matanzas, life moved with a paradoxical blend of joy and sorrow. The influence of European finesse and Spanish traditions was evident in every carved detail of Gothic cathedrals and statues that adorned city squares. Yet below the polished exterior simmered a restless spirit, yearning for change. The everyday lives of Cubans, whether they toiled in bustling marketplaces, crafted intricate works of art from local materials, or exchanged whispered dreams of rebellion in quiet alleys, told a story of resistance against an empire's stringent control. I describe scenes of daily life where sumptuous music and expressive art met the rigid demands of colonial law, creating a dichotomy between the inherited beauty of tradition and the stark realities of subjugation. In secret gatherings and hushed conversations under colonial watch, the seeds of dissent began to germinate. Art and literature, long cherished by the people, subtly transformed into acts of political defiance. Even the blossoming gardens and rugged coastlines served as silent witnesses to a society slowly awakening to its own potential. This interplay of culture and conflict set the stage for an extraordinary individual, Placido, whose life would soon reflect the convergence of beauty and brutality. Here in Cuba, every street corner, every artistic flourish, and every whispered conversation contributed to an evolving narrative of national identity, a narrative where the natural world seemed to mirror the inner desires of its people. This historical and cultural backdrop is essential to understanding the profound transformation that swept across the island, igniting passions that would forever alter its destiny. Born on April 6, 1809, in the vibrant city of Havana, Gabriel de la Concepcion Valdez emerged into a world fraught with contradictions. His mixed heritage, a union between a mulatto father, D.F. Matoso, and Concepcion Valdez from the historic city of Burgos, placed him at the crossroads of cultures and destinies. Even as a child, Placido showed signs of a sensitive and creative soul. In his early years, he was nurtured by his grandmother, whose tender care and moral guidance laid a strong foundation within him. Life, however, was not always kind. Adversity soon confronted him. Family hardships forced him to leave school prematurely, and he was thrust into the grueling world of labor. At a young age, he found employment in a printing office, where he learned the rudimentary skills that, though unaccompanied by monetary reward, nonetheless began to shape his worldview. Later, A pivot in his fate took him into the comm trade under Mr. N. Boda, a profession that, while seemingly humble, provided placid moments of reflection and nurtured his observant nature. It was during this phase of his youth that Placido's artistic abilities began to show promise. Under the tutelage of Master Escobar, his early studies in drawing blossomed into a keen eye for detail and aesthetics. His meticulous craftsmanship in tortoise-shell portrait frames, still admired in Matanzas today, stood as a testament to his innate talent. Even while he scrimped for daily necessities, Placido's mind was ablaze with poetic fervor, and by the age of 11, he was already composing verses that resonated with raw emotion. His prose and poetry quickly captured the admiration of local intellectuals, and he became a fixture in Havana's literary circles, quietly listening and absorbing debates on art, politics, and freedom. This confluence of experience, the hardship of labor, the refinement of art, and the stirring call of patriotism, shaped Placido into a symbol of hope. His life was a delicate balance of beauty and struggle, each day forging him further into the passionate poet and patriot whose legacy would one day stand against the tide of oppression. As the years unfolded in the bustling urban corridors of Havana, Placido's poetic voice began to rise with a fervor that echoed across both intimate gatherings and larger public forums. In these early years, I observed how a tender, imaginative soul grew into a celebrated wordsmith. By the age of 16, Placido was known throughout the city for his spontaneous compositions that captured the hearts of all who listened. His verses, rich with the spirit of Pindaric odes, were delivered with such conviction that even the most skeptical hearts were stirred. I recall the vivid imagery of him standing before crowded salons, where every well-dressed intellectual and every common citizen leaned in to catch the sound of his impromptu recitations. There, under the wan glow of gaslight and amid the murmur of thoughtful debates, he earned the moniker Placido, a name that came to symbolize not only the gentle cadence of his voice, but the assertive passion behind every word. Notable figures of the time, such as Mr. Sebastian Morales, recognized the brilliance in Placido's art, remarking on his effortless ability to blend beauty with raw political courage. His reputation was not confined to Havana. Periodicals that circulated throughout Cuba and even South America carried excerpts of his work, marking him as a poet of both local and international repute. Each poem was a testament to his intimate understanding of the human condition, his musings drawing profound parallels between the ephemeral nature of life and the eternal quest for meaning and justice. In every stanza, Placido encapsulated the hopes and despairs of his people, his verses functioning as both elegies to lost dreams and odes to an undying aspiration for freedom. This literary journey, filled with heartfelt expression and an unceasing desire to inspire, would soon lay the groundwork for the monumental sacrifices he was destined to make. Around the bustling centers of Matanzas and Havana, an undercurrent of unrest began to ripple through the lives of the oppressed. In this charged atmosphere, I witnessed how small gatherings in shadowed corridors and whispered conversations in crowded markets evolved into a silent clamor for change. Discontent, especially among the Afro-Cuban population, grew as a quiet but potent resistance against centuries of subjugation. Influential figures like David Turnbull, the British consular representative, emerged with promises of reward and liberation, appealing to the collective yearning for dignity. His envoy, Louis Guizot, shrewdly maneuvered through the intricate social fabric, engaging with intellectuals and laborers alike. The Spanish colonial authorities, ever vigilant, became increasingly uneasy as rumors of conspiracies swirled. In Havana, a sergeant named Joseph Eric, acting under orders and perhaps misguided loyalty, reported secret meetings purportedly organized to initiate a rebellion. Even as ordinary faces exchanged coded words of hope, the iron grip of Governor O'Donnell's regime tightened around any act that deviated from the prescribed order. I observed espionage at every turn as government spies infiltrated neighborhoods, determined to expose any sign of insurrection. This climate of suspicion and tension cast a long shadow over the island, and every subtle gesture, every furtive glance was quickly scrutinized. The conspiracies, whether real or imagined, were demonized by the authorities as elaborate plots intended to annihilate the white ruling class. In the swirling vortex of misinformation and heavy-handed repression, Even a simple act of creative expression was interpreted as sedition. It was amidst this explosive mix of hope, fear, and paranoia that Placido's luminous talent inadvertently placed him in the crosshairs of a government desperate to maintain its control, setting the stage for the tragic events to come. In a decisive moment that still sends shivers down the spine of history, the oppressive machinery of Spain's military government turned its relentless focus on Placido and his compatriots. I recount the unfolding of these events with a heavy heart, as I paint the somber picture of a trial steeped in injustice and orchestrated suppression. Accused of being the elusive president of the General Junta and a key leader in a supposed conspiracy for liberation, Placido's fate was sealed with grim formality. The authorities seized upon a single poem, My Oath, as their proof of sedition, twisting its passionate words to serve as evidence of insurrection. Alongside him, 10 other men were arrested, their names etched in the annals of a dark day. The narrative takes a particularly harrowing turn as I describe the final hours in the cold, echoing halls of the St. Elizabeth Hospital Chapel, where the condemned were gathered. Here, in a poignant display of stoic bravery, each man offered silent prayers and final reflections. Placido, despite suffering a wound to his shoulder from prior skirmishes, maintained an aura of resolute dignity that defied the encroaching despair. I vividly depict the tension in the air as armed soldiers lined up in double file, their gaze fixed and unyielding, while a vast crowd of nearly 20,000 citizens watched in muted horror and admiration. As the command to execute was issued, the piercing crack of gunfire shattered the silence. 10 lives were brutally stolen in an instant. Even as the smoke obscured the scene, Placido's final act of defiance emerged. Gathering his remaining strength, he raised his hand and symbolically beckoned the soldiers to finish his fate. In that fateful moment, as his life ebbed away and the cacophony of desperate breaths and clashing wills filled the air, his last recited verses, "My prayers to God," echoed like a solemn hymn of martyrdom. Every detail of that tragic morning is recounted with an unflinching honesty. It was a scene of unparalleled sorrow, where the sacrifice of one luminous poet and his comrades was seared into the collective memory of a nation longing for freedom. The tragic end of Placido remains a testament to the extreme measures taken by tyranny, a bitter reminder of the high cost of liberty. Even as the years have passed, the spirit of Placido continues to shine through the mists of time, a beacon of courage and creativity interwoven with the fabric of Cuba's identity. I reflect on the enduring legacy of this exceptional poet, whose life and sacrifice have transcended the immediate horrors of his final moments. Today, his verses are preserved not only in the pages of the anthology of Spanish-American poets, but also in the hearts of every Cuban who dreams of freedom. Intellectuals and artists alike have cited his work as a transformative force, a reminder that beauty can bloom even in the harshest soils of injustice. Critics, once divided, now universally acknowledge his genius as one that rivaled the luminaries of his time, like Espronceda and Avellaneda. His memory has become a symbol of resistance, a call to every generation to stand firm in the pursuit of liberty and dignity. In classrooms, in public squares, and within the quiet conversations of those who cherish their cultural heritage, the story of Placido is recounted with a mixture of sorrow and pride. His life has become a powerful narrative of possibility, that even a life marked by hardship, when devoted to a higher ideal, can ignite a movement that outlasts its temporal confines. I convey that the impact of his martyrdom is evident in the continued fight against oppression, a fight that pulses in the veins of modern movements for social justice. His sacrifices remind us that art, when intertwined with patriotic fervor, can challenge the mightiest of tyrannies, inspiring hope in the hearts of those who dare to dream. As I draw this narration to a thoughtful close, I reflect on the vivid chapters of Cuba's struggle for liberty, a tale illuminated by the life and ultimate sacrifice of Placido. His journey, from humble beginnings to becoming a symbol of unyielding resistance, captures the essence of a nation's enduring desire for freedom. This narrative, both poignant and powerful, challenges us to honor the legacy of those who fought against injustice and to embrace the transformative power of art and courage. May the memory of Placido forever remind us that even in the gravest moments, hope burns bright and liberty remains an everlasting beacon.